Hey guys, Spyro here. And so somebody in the server told you to watch this video because you're trying to figure out why your computer is lagging. Well, there's several reasons why it could be lagging, and there's several different ways to find out why. Well, I'm going to show you a couple ways to determine why it's lagging. If it's the desktop, browsing the web, or just simply just doing nothing. Then later on the video, I'll show you how to tell why it's lagging when you're playing a game. All right. First thing you need to do, there's no software you need to download for this first part. Only thing you have to do is bring up Task Manager. And there's two ways to bring up Task Manager. One way is Control Alt Delete. This here should come up. Only thing you got to do is click on Task Manager. So once you click on Task Manager, this here will come up. Or you can take, there's another way to bring up Task Manager. If you're on Windows 10, Windows 11, I'm not sure. You'll have to ask in the server if you don't know. But you can go down here, right click on your start bar, and you'll get an option for Task Manager. Click on that right here. Now, what we always look at first is the Performance tab, which is up here at the very top up here, and there's different tabs. We can always click on the Performance tab, and this here is several different tabs where different areas of your computer, like your CPU, your memory, you have your C drive, which is the one Windows is on, your D drive, then you have your net, Ethernet, Wi-Fi, and your GPU. Well, right now my computer is not lagging, but let's pretend for a minute that it is. I have a program that I don't know anything about that's recording in the background. For right now, I actually have a program that should be recording this video. Hopefully, it is. Let's pretend it is the one that's culprit. So right now, my GPU, it's running at 9%. Okay, it's really fine, but it's not crazy high. All right. My Ethernet not going to touch, not go over because of privacy reasons. But all I can tell you is if you look at the Ethernet, your Ethernet and Wi-Fi, and if it's spiking really high, that could be reason why your internet's slow or your online game is lagging. Um, your D drive, if you have games installed on your D drive, it could explain why that games are taking so long to load, why textures are cutting out, and why you're getting stutters, like game moving stops for a second because things needs to load off the drive. How to fix that is get a faster drive if you're running from a hard drive. For me, I'm running an SSD for my D drive, and all my games and all my data and everything is installed on said drive. Here's my C drive, which is the one Windows is installed on. But as you can see, my D drive and my C drive is both running at 0 because they're not being utilized right now. Okay, here's my memory. I have 16 gigs of RAM. My RAM is hardly ever used, but if it's like running like really high, like that number right here, if it's up in 80s, 90s, well, that's why. And if you got a low amount of RAM that's something like under 16 gigs, then that might be the reason why that applications could be lagging because you don't have enough RAM. And simply just by buying more RAM might help, or going into your processes and closing out background tasks that you don't need. And there's a way to do that by going to your startup tab, which is right here, and going through and disabling them. If you see, I got a few enabled and I got a few disabled. And These are just programs that starts up when your computer starts up. Some things you don't need, like for example, Discord. You don't need it to start up right when your computer turns on. Um, I got a program called Parsec. I really don't need to have that on when my computer starts up. The only thing I got to do is just right click and disable. Um, that would also help. And after you do that, just restart the computer. But anyway, that's not um, the reason why we're here. We're trying to determine why your computer is doing it. But that there could possibly help, something to look into. Um, but for the time being, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this. I'm just pretend my CPU is getting hit very hard, which right now the recording software it's kind of hitting it hard at 37%. And so now we need to find out what program is hitting my CPU so hard. So we need to go over processes. We need to sort by CPU, which is only thing you gotta do is these little bars here. You can sort. So I clicked on CPU, and the one that should be hitting the hardest should be the very top one. Which for me, my recording program, which is GeForce Experience that I'm using right now, it won't show up. But let's pretend for a minute. But for the time being, it's Windows Explorer that's hitting my CPU so hard. So only thing you'd have to do is take it, right click, and in process, which I'm not going to do that for now. All right. Now, how to fix games and find out why your game is lagging. Well, you can't. Task Manager might work. In some cases, it might not work. The best way to do is use a program that's in game, because some games, if you minimize the game, it won't utilize your full computer. The game is basically paused. We don't want that to happen. So we want to find out why exactly right now, while you're playing the game, why your computer is lagging. Because if you take the game and pause it, it might not show in Task Manager. So you need to have something there where you can see the game while you're seeing the stats of your computer to help determine why it's lagging. So luckily there is a program out there called MSI Afterburner. What we need to do is pull up the internet, go to Google. It's the easiest way to find it. Type in MSI Afterburner. Should be the very top link, or you might have to go down through, but the link you're looking for is the one directly from MSI. There's some that's on Growth 3D, they might work. But the one that's most reliable, that's guaranteed to not have any viruses or anything like that, get the one directly from the source, which is this one here, MSI. So you'll have, now for me, I didn't get the prompt, but there's the button here for download MSI Afterburner. It won't work immediately unless you click on the license agreement up here. Because I noticed I had a little agreement. I had to click on this little agreement thing to accept before I could actually download it. So I click on download MSI Afterburner. I've already downloaded it before, but I'm going to show you the whole setup process and all. But I use a third-party downloader, which is Internet Download Manager. But you'll have the program down here, maybe you'll have it maybe up here. But the only thing you got to do, you should know how to download programs and install them. But just in case you don't know, I'm going to download this to my desktop, start download, let it download. There it is. There. Move you up here so you're not in the way. So yeah, that's my game. That's the game we're going to test in a minute. We're done with this page now. Now, for the time, now as you see the MSI Afterburner file that I just downloaded, it's It's in a zip file. What I recommend doing is taking it, which you see there's a regular folder and there's a zip file. So if you don't know what zipped is, they look the same, they work almost the same, but they're not the same thing. Some files they do not like to be opened inside a zip. So for MSI, I'm not going to take the risk. I'm going to take it out of the zip folder. And that's all. The only thing you gotta do is just grab, drag, drop. It's the only thing you gotta do. Delete the zip because we don't need it. This is the file we need. Open it up. Open as administrator would help, but don't need to. Okay, English, next, accept, next, 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 install. Let it install. Okay, this is for Riva, which Riva's fine. Just go ahead and install Riva because some things you have to have installed for NVIDIA graphics cards. So it's best to install it to where not to have any trouble because Riva is for the overlay for NVIDIA graphics cards and stuff like that. Okay, don't need the README. Finish. Don't need the README, but we need to start MSI Afterburner. So press finish. Okay, after MSI loads, this icon here, which we used to install the program, we do not need it anymore. So, bye-bye. Now, here's MSI Afterburner. You do not need to move any sliders or anything like that because we're not going to be playing on overclocking. Because that's originally what MSI Afterburner is for overclocking, but we're not planning on doing any overclocking. We're going to use MSI's overlay feature. So we need to go to settings. We need to go to the on-screen display option. Then these here will say none in it. We need to put something in them to make it to where we can actually turn them on. So for the time being, I used Control K. So the only thing I've done is clicked inside of that box and press Control. Then and it changed to Control Plus. Then I just put Control K. Then the other one is Control L. It's just a combination that don't work. Just don't use Control V, Control X, Control C, Control V, and there's a few others you don't use, but K and L is not used. But that's just for the time being. You just need something that you can click on and it just works. Now, this is not going to work immediately. We have to enable something else because we don't have no nothing for MSI to show up. So we have to go in press apply. We have to go over to the next tab over. Then we have to go down through these and determine what to make it on the screen. So for the time being, let me go off screen so you can see a little bit better. We need the GPU temperature so we can determine if the GPU is overheating. We need GPU usage and how to turn these on. You click on it, then you check the little box that says show on screen display. You have to make sure it's checked. GPU usage. We need the memory usage. We're going to we don't need none of these. Power percent might help, so you might want to turn it on. We need let's see. Nope. CPU temperature to be handy. We need well, there should be a package. Not CPU1. We need the CPU temperature. You see all these different ones where it says 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We basically need the one that don't have number on it. So we just need CPU temperature. That tells what the whole entire CPU is running at. Because we don't need to know what individual cores are. Same with the usage. So we go down here, CPU usage. Because these here is per core. Because remember, I have technically a 12-core processor. 6-core, 12-thread, but MSI's detecting as 12 cores. But we just need this one here, which gives a what do you call it? An average. Say, okay, the clock speed, that would help. So we're going to go to the clock, CPU clock speed, CPU power. We need RAM usage. I think we have all those. Let's see, RAM usage would help. Then the frame rate would actually help too. So we have to check it. Show on screen display. And that's it. Then the only thing we have to do is click apply. Okay. Keep MSI up. You can minimize it if you want, just by pressing the little line key. But for the time being, we're just going to leave it right here. Now, only thing we need to do now is start our game. So for the time being, I'm going to use a game called Split Second. So I'm going to start my game. Then if it doesn't show up, which mine did right up here in the corner, you just press Control K and Control L. And this here should come up. Now, as you can see up here in the corner, my GPU is running at 51 degrees Celsius, and it's been utilized pretty good, pretty low. See my memory. You can see CPU, you can also see RAM, and you can see the frames per second. Basically, what you need to look at is see which one is being utilized high over the others. If you have a high CPU and running very low GPU, that could be that your computer's bottlenecking from your CPU, or you could be running just a CPU high demand game. How to determine that is just simply just asking the server, and we'll tell you if it's a game that's running your GPU at 99, 100%, and your CPU's at 1%, and you're getting stupidly low frames per second, your GPU's holding you back. Same with everything else. Your RAM, if your computer is, your CPU is running like 20%, your GPU is running at like 40, 50%, and your RAM is running at 99, then it's your RAM. It's mostly just got to keep an eye on your specs up here. If you're not sure, take a picture of stats, post them in the server. Make sure you ask for permissions, ping helpful member, and someone be there to help you. So hopefully this here helps you. And see you in the server.